One, shame on you for saying January 6th is the date that we don't care about and shouldn't. How dare you? Okay.
Make it
how dare
your
you?
Living
how dare
testimony.
you? Okay. Don't you? I mean, really? Okay. I hope that. I mean, I wonder if you would be that.
Tara Setmayer completely lost patience on Newsnight with Abby Phillip. And honestly, it is hard to blame her. Harrison Fields came on that panel to defend the $1.8 billion fund and to minimize what happened on January 6th in the same breath. And Tara Setmayer, someone who was actually present in the Capitol that day as a congressional staffer, was not having a single word of it. What you are about to watch is what happens when someone who lived through that day has to sit across from someone trying to gaslight the entire country about it on national television. This debate covers the fund, presidential accountability, the Kennedy Center, and January 6th itself. Let's watch it in full, and I will give you my complete thoughts on the other side.
Arrogant in front of the families whose lives have been ruined by that, and the officers who put their lives on the line.
I was there on January 6th as a congressional staffer.
If you lost a brother there, what would you do?
I'm not going to be gaslit. I'm not going to be gaslit by you or you. As someone who grew up in a house of law enforcement, my mother was a 9/11 first responder who survived on that day. I'm not going to be gaslit by you on who was harmed that day.
You did not. Me
it was not a great day.
Guys, just 1 second.
And we moved on.
Hold on. Just 1 second, Harrison. These people beat up people, killed people, and beat up cops. What this is loyalty as an asset class. What this is the founding fathers were concerned that the king would sort of just, go run amok and use anything he could in order to control. What you have here, this isn't derived from the judgment fund because it's a political narrative fund. And it's weaponization, and where does it end? So then it's like, oh, I'm a victim of media misinformation. I want some money, okay? It also incentivizes people to commit crimes. So, I mean, I can appreciate your point of view, but, we don't always have to try to find the functional equivalent, and this is pretty black and white. Where we are now with criminals they used to leave our judicial system and get back on the street with probation. Now they leave with a 401k.
Or your party just gives them back into the community because they have cashless bail, letting criminals go back and forth, terrorize communities.
The conservatives do as well.
In this city.
It's the system, but that's a broader system that we can fix. And
who's fixing
this is just doling out money.
Not your party.
This fund doesn't even have someone to monitor it.
To go to your overall point, you call it clever. I don't think it's clever. I think it's redressing a problem that was unprecedented. You have a situation.
The part that I said was clever was Trump suing his own government and having his own appointed Justice Department determining whether or not to actually oppose a lawsuit against the IRS or just drop the case so that he can get $1.8 billion.
We had the former Department of Justice under President Biden go after the leading candidate for president on the opposite side, who then happened to win in a landslide victory, who then oversees the Department of Justice.
What was he gone after for?
And who's the president of the United States
What
today?
was he?
Did anything
in
stick?
your words,
Did anything stick?
No, just let me ask you. What was President Trump prosecuted for?
You spent show after show.
Why won't you answer the question?
We all know what the charges were, but we all know.
You just won't say it.
It was BS. It was weaponization to the 10th degree.
But you can't just call it weaponization. You won't even say what it was.
We all know what the charges were. We all know what the BS charges were. It was political retribution. It was political prosecution.
First of all,
the likes of which that the American people said absolutely not. Not in America.
What was former President Trump at the time investigated for?
We all know what the FBI did to his home. We all know.
I think it's very telling.
We all know what the Department of Justice did. And the American people said absolutely not.
Hold on a second, Tara. It's very telling that you won't even name the thing because it's important what the actual substance of it is.
It's important to know that he's the President of the United States and there was no charges that ever stood. This is why he's there today.
The investigation existed, that it is by definition political targeting. There was a reason he was investigated. It didn't, and you know what? It really didn't have to be that way. He was given on the documents cases. He was given many opportunities.
Which was thrown out.
He was given many opportunities to rectify that before it got to that stage. And on January, and Harrison, just a second, on January 6th, On January 6th,
your favorite
it was
day of the
actually
year.
the Republican Party
Yes,
Okay,
who
wait a
said,
minute.
hold on a second.
Just dismiss January 6th.
Can you let me finish? Can you let me finish my thought?
It's not.
On January 6th,
January
it was the
6th.
Republican Party who said that a criminal case against Trump was the way to hold him accountable. You know who said that? Mitch McConnell on the Senate floor.
Okay.
So now Trump goes and pardons a bunch of people who were responsible for violence on January 6th. Those people now are eligible for this fund. Many of them say they want tens of millions of dollars from the federal government in exchange for their prosecution, their trial by jury, their conviction, all of that. They want tens of millions of dollars from taxpayers. And even Republicans say this stinks to the high heavens.
I actually kind of respect Republicans, some Republicans, and I heard it a little bit in your voice for saying a little bit of that, sticking to what they consider to be those fiscal conservative roots. But I mean, it all stinks of what America knows about President Trump, which is that he has been the most corrupt president that America has ever had. You can look like that and look to the side. The data say so.
What data point?
Yes, polling data. I'm a pollster. We poll on these
polling
things.
data, subjective polling data.
No, that's not.
Give him specifics of data points that you raised.
He's the one that mentioned the data.
How about that?
54% of America think that President Trump is corrupt, and that is from a survey of national survey
What was the
of
polling
adults.
on the Biden family?
It was much lower. It was, I think it
Okay.
was like 47%.
Did you not
And
listen
and
to the
before
oversight
that-
hearings?
Okay.
The
well,
web of LLCs?
Biden's not in power anymore.
either
Let's
way,
focus on
So we're
Trump.
going to ignore what just happened before
Well,
the last 4 years.
let me just put it this way. We'll get into some of the alleged self-dealing that's happening right now with Trump and his family a little bit later in the show. So we'll be able to litigate that a little bit later. But you know, the courts are speaking up right now about some of these things. And we just talked about this IRS situation, the settlement. There's also Trump slapping his name on the Kennedy Center, which is actually a much more black and white situation. The judge said the statute makes it crystal clear that the center is named for President Kennedy. Congress gave it its name. Congress can change it. Trump actually seems to acknowledge this and just seems to throw his hands up in this Truth Social post saying he's given Congress full responsibility for the operation, maintenance, and management of the Kennedy Center, which I'm not sure they relinquished at any point, but that is, that's what he says.
So a few things here. One, as someone who is a patron of the arts, who loves the Kennedy Center, who was heartbroken to see it destroyed under Donald Trump for this personal vanity project and for him to desecrate a living memorial to John F. Kennedy the way he did in a tacky way, like he always does. I'm talking now. Thank you.
Just let her finish.
So I am really glad to see that a judge looked at this and said, absolutely not, because Trump violated the law. You had Congresswoman Joyce Beatty out there, who was the only congressional person on the board left over, because Trump fired everyone, and that's by statute, out there fighting for this. I was glad to see my friends over there, Norm Eisen and Katie Fang and those folks, taking this to court and winning. So, you know, I hope that the Kennedy Center is restored to the glory that it deserves to be in. And that's not, he didn't need to put his name on it to do it illegally.
I'm not saying
and
yes, I'm
also,
not saying
there's
you're
a lot of other things that they did, the grift going on inside, what Richard Goodell did to the Kennedy Center, the permanent art collection that no one knows where that is. I mean, it's a mess, and I hope it's restored. Two other things I want to address. One, shame on you for saying January 6th is the date that we don't care about and shouldn't. How dare you?
You
okay?
make it
How dare
your
you?
living
How dare
testimony.
you? Okay? Don't you? I mean, really?
Wag
Okay.
your finger.
I hope that. I mean, I wonder if you would be that arrogant in front of the families whose lives have been ruined by that, and the officers who put
I
their
was
lives on
there
the
on
line.
January 6th as a
And-
congressional staffer.
If you lost a brother there, what would you do?
I'm not going to be gaslit. I'm not going to be gaslit by you or you. As someone who grew up in a house of law enforcement,
So
my
did
mother
I.
was a 9/11 first responder
And my
who
grandfather
survived
was a
on
police
that
officer.
day. I'm not going to be gaslit
my
by you
husband's a federal officer.
on who was harmed
You're
that
not-
day.
You're not me.
It was not a
gaslighting
great
you.
day.
Okay,
It was not a
buddy.
great
Guys,
day.
just one second.
And we moved
Hold
on.
on.
We'll let
Hold
the
on.
viewers
The
decide who's
nation has
gaslighting
moved on
who.
from
Just one
January 6th.
second,
The
Harrison.
nation has.
From
And the
January
reelection.
6th.
Harrison
If they
and
moved
guys,
on from
all
January
right, I'm
6th,
gonna
this
just
wouldn't
I'm gonna
be
just
so
stop it for a second because
controversial.
we just can't hear between the two of you yelling at each other. I just want to ask you a pretty straightforward question. This is getting to her point about the impact of that day on real Americans and on law
was there.
enforcement.
Were you there?
Do you acknowledge that on January 6th, Capitol police officers were assaulted and brutalized by the rioters who were there that
I
day.
acknowledge that it was a terrible day for our nation's history. What happened?
That's not the question that I asked you.
Yes.
Okay. So you
That did
acknowledge
Why
that,
is it
that,
so
law,
hard?
that law
Why is
enforcement
it so hard for you?
No, hold on a
Why
second.
is it so hard?
One
for you?
second. Let's just get through this.
This is
so
happening
the answer
every day
is
in America against
the
ICE
answer-
agents, against NYPD
so,
officers,
hey, all
and you
I'm-
guys completely ignore
Harrison,
it.
hey, all I'm asking
someone
is
who
that
defends
if
cops
you
every
care
single day of
about
my
law
life.
enforcement officers who are ICE officers, who are beat cops, you should also care about Capitol
is true
police
for you,
officers
you,
whose
you,
lives
and you.
were forever
And I'm
changed.
just asking for,
I think that's the
it's a
same.
double
It's true for
standard.
you.
When
It
was
is
the
true
last
for
time
everybody
you
at this
cared,
table.
talked about the brutality against our ICE
Hold on a
agents
second.
or men and women in law enforcement.
We talk about it
You
all the
don't talk
time.
Let us start with what Tara said at the end, because that moment needs to be acknowledged properly. She was there. She was inside the Capitol on January 6th as a congressional staffer. She watched it unfold in real time, and she had to sit across from Harrison Fields while he tried to wave the entire thing away as something people should stop caring about. And she told him exactly what needed to be said. How dare you, not as a talking point, not as a political attack, as someone who was in that building, as someone who grew up in a law enforcement household, as someone whose mother was a first responder on September 11th. You do not get to sit in a television studio and tell people who lived through that day that it does not matter. And the moment that exposed Harrison Fields completely was when Abby Phillip asked him a simple and direct question. Do you acknowledge that Capitol police officers were assaulted and brutalized by rioters on January 6th? That is not a complicated question. That is a yes or no question backed by documented facts. More than 140 law enforcement officers were injured that day. Officers suffered broken bones, concussions, chemical burns, and lasting psychological trauma that many of them have testified about publicly before Congress. And Harrison Fields could not bring himself to answer it directly. He retreated to it was a terrible day for our nation. That is not an answer. That is an evasion. And the reason he evaded is because answering it honestly would have dismantled his entire position in one sentence. Because here's the contradiction at the core of every MAGA argument about January 6th. These are the same people who say they are the party of law and order. The same people who talk endlessly about backing the blue and supporting law enforcement. The same people who use police officers as a political prop in every single campaign season. But the moment you ask them to apply that same energy to the Capitol police officers who were beaten with flagpoles and sprayed with chemicals while defending the United States Congress, suddenly the conversation becomes complicated. Suddenly it is about context. Suddenly it is about political targeting. You cannot be pro-law enforcement on Monday and then spend Tuesday defending the people who put 140 of those officers in the hospital. Now let us talk about the fund itself, because the panel made some sharp points that deserve to be highlighted. The core legal problem with this fund is not the concept of compensating people who were wrongly targeted by the government. Legal mechanisms for that already exist. People can sue, courts can award damages, Congress can authorize compensation through proper channels. What makes this fund different and dangerous is the complete absence of independent oversight. The president selects the panel. The president can fire anyone on that panel at any time. The acting attorney general appoints the auditor and can veto the audit findings. There is no hard cap on the total amount that can be paid out, and the American public will not know the full list of recipients. That is not a justice fund. That is a political loyalty fund operating behind a legal facade. And as Tara pointed out, Mitch McConnell himself stood on the Senate floor after January 6th and said a criminal case against Trump was the appropriate way to hold him accountable. That was not a Democrat saying that. That was the leader of the Republican Party. So now Trump pardons the people responsible for the violence of that day, makes them eligible for this fund, and some of them are filing claims demanding tens of millions of dollars from American taxpayers for being convicted by juries of their peers. And even Republicans are saying it stinks to the high heavens. Then there is the Kennedy Center. A federal judge ruled clearly and directly that Trump violated the law by putting his name on a national institution that Congress specifically named for President Kennedy. The statute is crystal clear. Congress named it. Only Congress can change it. And the permanent art collection that was there, nobody knows where it is now. This is the pattern. Take a public institution that belongs to all Americans, strip it of its identity, stamp your name on it, and treat it as a personal branding opportunity. The courts are now pushing back, and that is exactly how the system is supposed to work. Checks and balances exist for precisely this reason. The broader message from this entire clip is one that Americans are fully capable of understanding. You can hold two things in your head at the same time. You can support border security and condemn the attack on the Capitol. You can believe in government accountability and also believe that police officers who were beaten on January 6th deserve the same protection and respect as every other officer in this country. Those positions are not contradictory. The only people who need them to be contradictory are the ones trying to defend the indefensible. Most Americans watched January 6th unfold live on their television screens. They saw the windows being smashed. They saw officers being dragged and beaten. They saw lawmakers running for their lives. No amount of panel debate, political spin, or carefully worded evasions changes what people watched with their own eyes. And every time someone like Harrison Fields tries to minimize it, they remind the country exactly why it still matters. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification. I will see you in the next one.